Hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson on how we plan out our intentions for a scene in our story. Knowing the goal that you want to get out of a scene is critical because then you don't have any superfluous material in your narratives, and it makes for a much tighter, cohesive story. That's what this lesson is all about. Now, it is a part of my Great Scenes mega course. This is a huge course on scene writing that we'll talk about all of the aspects of scene and address all the questions that my students have fielded at me for years of teaching creative writing. It is jam-packed with information as well as downloadable resources for you. So if you end up enjoying this lesson, I definitely recommend clicking on the link in the description box below and taking a look at that entire scene. Let's not delay and let's get into the lesson. All right, scene building. As we said, a scene is basically its own little mini plot. It has its own beginning, its own middle, rising action, climax, denouement in it. So we're talking about making lots of little dramatic morsels for your readers to eat while they go through your book. There are all different kinds of ways that people write. And so sometimes when you write, you won't necessarily always know the direction your story is going to go. And sometimes when you write, you'll have a strong sense of that. I don't want to get into detail here on how to handle each of those types of writing. I got into that more at length in my Plot 101 course. But I do just want to say that I'm going to be talking now about really doing some extensive planning. I recognize that doesn't always happen in the way that you write. Sometimes writing is just more going along and happenstance and discovering the story as you go. But I do think that actually planning and doing some of that preliminary writing is extremely helpful. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on here, which means that one of the first things that you want to think about when you're choosing whether to include a scene as well as when you're writing a scene are just kind of determining what are your plans for the scene, what are your intentions, what are your goals for this scene. I have said numerous times in my classes that you have to fight for everything that you put into your stories. If it doesn't have a reason for being there, it has to go no matter how much you love it. And a good reason isn't just that, gee, I really like this scene, or oh, I thought that imagery was just so great. No. If it doesn't relate to the plot, if it doesn't advance the character, it has to go. So it's important to ask yourself, what is my purpose? What are my intentions for this scene? So you want to ask yourself, what does my character want in this scene or need in this scene, or what does my character plan to do in this scene? Now, I will caveat that a lot of the things we're going to be talking about are a very proactive character. That's not necessarily always the case. There are scenes in which things are more happening to your character and your character is in more of a reactionary state, and then there will be scenes where your character is more proactive. So that will change as you go through your scenes. You'll have more scenes where your character is proactive than reactive. I mean, the character will be reacting to things all throughout the scene, but in general, a scene might be more the characters doing something, making decisions. And then you really might have some scenes, as you'll see in our literary example, where there's a lot coming at the character, that they're just mostly being forced into a reactionary state through that scene. So know that variety is there, but when you're considering that proactiveness, really asking yourself, okay, this is about my character in this scene, knowing that this is its own story with its own beginning denouement, right? It's got its own goal, its own climax. What does my character need right now? Like, what is she trying to get out of this scene? So you want to say, in this moment, what are my character's most immediate desires? Because there's the grand desire of your character for your narrative. Frodo wants to get the ring into Mordor or something like that. But that's built up of a lot of little immediate desires, right? I might have a grand desire to get the promotion, but throughout the story, my immediate desire might be, I'm really hungry and I need a salami sandwich. So we're talking, when we talk about scene development, there's a lot more immediacy to the goals and whatnot that your character's dealing with. Once you've determined for yourself, okay, the most immediate need, desire, etc. of my character for this scene is XYZ, then your next question for yourself is, all right, when I'm designing this scene, what's the opposition? What is getting in the way of that scene? Is there anyone in this scene who can help her reach her goals? And finally, always be asking yourself, does this relate to the grand plot? So those are all sorts of questions you want to ask when you're trying to come up with your intentions for that scene. Asking yourselves these kind of questions is going to help you not have scenes in your narrative that are not germane to the plot, that are sort of activity scenes and not proactive dramatic action scenes. Always remember, when you're thinking about your character intentions, those intentions lead to complications, which lead to reactions that are basically new intentions. So I might have an intention of going to the shop and getting a salami sandwich. I go to the shop to get the salami sandwich, they're out of salami, so that's my complication. I can't have that salami sandwich, but it's the salami sandwich that my boss really wanted, and I don't want to go back to my boss and tell him that there's no salami sandwich. So now I have a new intention, and my new intention is to somehow get 2 blocks down to this other delicatessen and get a salami sandwich there and try to get back in time to make the meeting. Do you see how it's like, I had an intention, I had a conflict, now I have a new intention. Action, reaction, action. So once you kind of establish for yourself an intention for your character, you don't want to go that long before you kind of thwart it. And that's what's interesting to us. If we go along too long with a character who's really getting his or her own way just swimmingly, that's not very interesting. So you want to sort of say to yourself, all right, I know my intention, I've kind of established this, now let's get in there and mess it up.